through the mayhem, the Silently podcast series, bringing marketing industry leaders together to discuss the ever-shifting media landscape. Learn about the ins and outs of real-time marketing, influencers, data privacy, technology, and so much more. All from industry experts with real experience, giving you the real answers. Now, let's break through the mayhem.
Welcome to Breaking Through the Mayhem. We have a very, very special guest today, Cara Lewis. I know Cara, but I don't know her that well. So this is like an exciting moment for me to get to know her better. You guys have seen her on some of the coolest podcasts, on stages, winning awards. Like, we're super honored to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
If you don't mind, like, before we jump in, if you could tell us a little bit about your journey. I mean, you've been at dentsu since 2010, right? And you've obviously seen different roles, different iterations. Like, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your journey, and what just keeps you excited right now?
So I just hit 15 years actually in March, which is super exciting. Longest agency group that I've been at. I would say my journey started when I was pretty young. My dad worked in audio at CBS. And so, I would go to the studio and go to the office with him, and he would take me to like the editing rooms, and we'd walk like the Bold and the Beautiful sets. And I was like, this is amazing. This is awesome. And I just like kind of fell into being in love with television. And so when I went to college, my actual degree was a BA in advertising, which I would say a lot of people in this business don't actually have. Like, they more have like business or communications, but West Virginia University actually had an advertising school.
You're a mountaineer.
Yeah, mountaineer.
I love it.
But yeah, so it started way back. But then I got a job and started at the Media Edge, working on Glaxo. And it was a time when we were buying so much broadcast, and everybody was like, why don't you buy cable? And when I got there, we started to buy cable, which is like crazy. But at the time, I think there was like 50 to 60 cable channels, maybe around there. And I still have one of like the giveaways that was like given in like an upfront meeting from Tech TV, which then became Court TV, and I think now is True TV. Like, it's kind of insane. Like, my husband and I were both in the business, so we kind of find these things that we got years ago, and we're like, wow, this is like a framer. But yeah, so as I said, I was at the Media Edge. I worked on Glaxo, then I went over to TN Media, which became Initiative, and worked on SC Johnson and a couple other travel brands. And then I went over to MPG and worked on retail. And then I came over here at Cara, working on Pfizer and then GM, and then moving up through investment roles. So it's been a journey. I would say what excites me is just that this business changes so often. I'm like one of those odd, rare people that I like change. So change is good to me.
Yeah, if you don't like change in this business, it's definitely could be stressful. And I was interviewing someone a couple of weeks ago that who said, I don't like change, but it's inevitable, right? So the fact that you like it is even a bigger power. What would you say is like the key lessons you've learned throughout your career and the way that you think about mentorship?
I mean, I think the lessons I've learned kind of go back to change. It's like, you can never just like kind of rest on your laurels. Like, again, I started when it was heavily broadcast and syndication, and cable was like 50 channels, then grew to 150. And then there was all these other things. So I've kind of just grew up in this like change. So I think lessons that I've learned are that you can't sit still, that you have to keep learning. That you have to, keep kind of advocating for the clients and pushing for them, ask a lot of questions. I think one of the things I would say that I didn't do great was ask a lot of questions. I more kind of internalize it and then ask myself 50 to 60 different times the questions. And I'm like, why didn't I just ask that to begin with? But I think that those are, some of the fundamentals that actually help you with the amount of change that's happening by, continuing to kind of learn and continuing to expand your horizons.
And as you kind of look to the next phase in your career and also the agency, like, How are you guys keeping company culture strong with how fast-paced things are today? How are you bringing into the company artificial intelligence for them to use? Like, where do you kind of think in those two lanes?
I mean, culture is definitely something we think about all of the time. We're at dentsu hybrid. We have the leaders back in the office, and we have some people coming back to the office, come May, but for 1 day a week. So our culture we've really had to drive a deep culture of what it looks like in hybrid. And as we start to come back, what it looks like, we've started to have like sessions that are in office, and like, what does that look like for people who aren't in an office or near an office to get to the hybrid or in-person session? Um, what do the different teams look like? There's been a lot about the cultures of the brands within Dentsu, really highlighting Cara and highlighting DX and highlighting iProspect, but at the same time, we're this big scaled service that feeds into all of them. So what does our culture look like, and how do we incorporate that? And we do a lot around like destination Dentsu and what does your job mean to you? Like, not just like going to work and working, but like, what does it actually mean to you to buy out of home or to work on the digital programmatic team? So we have people come to our all staffs to really talk about that, to really get in with the others that are thinking about it, but like can't really think about where it fits. And then we just, we have a few awards. We have an awards program that we just incorporated here at Dentsu in terms of my team, in terms of the Brilliance Awards.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so just really trying to really pump that culture and allow people to see that a lot of the work that we do, while, we might not win an award or submit an award for everything that we do, there's a lot of really great work happening for our clients.
With the amount of money that you have under management and the amount of clients, like, how do you still think about maintaining client level customization just like you do with your people?
I mean, for us, that's at the core. Dentsu is a client-centric agency. And so everything that we do starts with the client. And I would say within a client starts with the individual brand. So if it's a brand that has 20 different, a client that has 20 different brands, like, we're thinking about those 20 different brands. How do they roll up to the client? And then how does Dentsu really kind of operate and get the scale for those clients there? So I think under our management, we're thinking about that every single day with every single dollar that we spend.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and what would you say has been one of your favorite client stories of all time?
I've worked on some really great American brands in my career, and it's been truly amazing to see some of them come to life. And I think the most exciting thing, and I laugh about it because somebody was just, I think, I teamsing about this today, was what we do for our clients. Our parents still don't know what we do. Like, I've been in this business for like 25 plus years, and like sometimes I'm like, I see that commercial and like we're at Easter weekend and we're watching something and I'm like, oh, my team put that on, and my mom's like, huh, like, what did you do? Or my mom and I were on the plane and we were reading a magazine, and I'm like, oh, that's one of our clients. And so I think it's funny. Somebody was saying, I think it was Martin on my team, about out of home. He was like, I can tell my parents till they're blue in the face what I do, but they still don't get it.
That's hilarious. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's funny because you're talking a lot about your husband, your mom. Like, you sound like you're an extremely family oriented person. How do you balance like the pressure of all this work with family life and a lot of the commitments that you have outside of work?
That's like the ultimate question that a lot of people actually in the walls of Dentsu and outside the walls of Dentsu ask me, and I don't really like know that I have the answer. I do sleep, but sleep, like, a lot goes through my head while I'm sleeping, so I probably get like 3 hours of sleep a night. But I had a lot of time to think about how to balance my life with what happened personally to me before I was at Dentsu, when I was at Initiative, and being diagnosed with breast cancer, and then giving me like 5 to 6 years of a time where I was able to upscale my career in a different place than had I really, what I wanted to do in life was start a family. So I think I was given a lot of time to enjoy with my husband and to enjoy traveling and to really kind of focus on my career. So that way, when I had a family, and I was growing through the ranks, that I could somewhat balance it. So there's definitely times where I'm sitting on the couch and my kids are like, why are you on the phone? And I'm not actually working probably on the phone. I'm on Team Snap or Game Changer or Sports Engine, signing them up for some sport, or, making sure their uniform is ordered, because everything is done by the phone these days, but they think it's just for me work. And I'm like, it's everything. But I also just, I try to take a couple times out of the year to go on a really nice trip with my family, which I just did. And, it helps me get relaxed and reset and recharged to come back. And then I do think that some of my passions that come through, I need to actually support because they help me in my personal journey. So I find that balance. I don't really know how, but I
I
think I
think
was given a second chance at life. And so I just love life.
I think it's an amazing way of thinking about things that like I feel like every leader tries to always answer every question as if they know. And like I love your answer because you're basically like, maybe I do know, but I don't know exactly how to explain it. But
Yeah.
what I do know is that I
Yeah.
was given a second chance, and that not only that, I mean, let's be real. Like the amount you've given back because of your second chance is like you're like a treasure, as I was trying to tell you. Like that's super important that you do that. And I think when I think about what you do, and I've been at some of the Media Ladies Conquering Cancer events, they're really cool. Like you guys like not to say this weird way, you guys like make it look cool. Like you get out there, you're like this unbelievable squad. You know how to balance that nerves and like passion with the ability to move forward at the same time. And I think that that's one of the things that I've truly admired about those events. And how are you trying to continue to build out your platform to raise awareness? And how can people help you? Like I know everyone always asks you how you could help them.
Yeah. Yeah.
How would people be able to?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think, I will be 20 years in 2026, in the beginning of 2026. So, um, for me, it's about making some milestones because milestones are big when you are a survivor. And I think when we came together as the MLCC group and Amy brought us together, I think we all just thought we were going to dinner to hear each other's stories and like help each other out. And then we're like, what do we do with this? Right. And I think the platform that we've built out, I had somebody ask me, why wouldn't you just work with another organization? I love that organization, don't get me wrong, and I do stuff with that organization, but this organization for us was about our people in this business that when they're diagnosed, they're like, they need a buddy to talk to. They need somebody that can relate. Don't get me wrong, some of my best friends helped me through those moments, as did my family. But if I had somebody that was like a true 29-year-old diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer person that I could have talked to, and I talked to some people that were older than me that were diagnosed and all of that, they all helped me. But if I had that person who had a very similar diagnosis, it probably would have helped me in a different way. And so us building this platform has allowed us to have like 30 plus, I think, women paired up and buddied up who have helped them through their journeys. We just sent out in the last like few weeks, because we finally got organized and our 501c3 and all the things, we just sent out, and we're still sending out intermittently, gift baskets to the women that joined in the last 2 years that we just weren't able to get the gift baskets to because we needed to fundraise. And we got one of the women who came back, and she just got out of surgery, and she was like, I came home to this amazing gift basket of such thoughtful gifts that are going to help me through like my journey. And thank you so much. And like, I can't wait to be able to like be a, survivor and give back. And to hear those sorts of things really just, I think, helps us continue to move on, because we know that we're helping other women in their journey and making sure that they have something that can be like a safekeeping for them to feel really comfortable with as they go in this journey and have so many unknowns. So we bought a table at the WIM event. So like we're trying to get ourselves out there of we're here to help any woman or man, to be honest, in our business that's diagnosed. And it's really beyond breast cancer. It's what we know. But we do have several diagnosis women with other cancers.
Yeah. I don't where do you shift gears from that? Every time
Well, we could talk about you wanted this to be about me. I mean, we could talk about year 20, and my husband and I just started talking about the celebration that we're going to have because in 2006 in September, after I was diagnosed and finished with all my treatments and most of my surgeries, I think I had one or two after that, and I've had several in between, but we threw a big remission party in our backyard. So we've been talking about doing it again. We had like over 500 people at our house at the time. So we'll
Oh
see.
my God. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, like I said, where do you go from there? But we're gonna try to like shift
Pivot back.
we're gonna try to pivot back a little between the work and obviously purpose, which I feel like these things have become extremely mixed, right? And
Yep.
obviously I feel like your passion for yourself and the people around you and definitely must have helped you in working with clients, right? I mean, think about it. I mean, you definitely have thought of a lot of new ideas, but also just the way your empathy probably grew, the way that you work with other people. So, has there been any like unexpected things that came from this that have really helped you with clients or your work?
I mean, I think you're right. I think to me, like I try to take the position a lot of times of like, okay, let's take a step back. Like we're not saving lives, but we do want to obviously fix the brand or we want to help the brand or we want to promote the brand. And so it helps me kind of ground myself in terms of where we can actually go. I think it also helps me in terms of being a leader at the company. I lead with empathy. If somebody, is sick or we all step in, we're a team and we help each other out. So I would say that has happened often in my leadership job. I think the first 6 months that I was in the role, I had like 4 people out on some personal things, and I was like, "What's going on?" But at the same time, I was like every day checking in with them because what was important to them was that they get better and they work through what they needed to work through. And so I think for me, it's all about making sure that they know that I'm their advocate, but they have to be their own advocate. And I think my leadership style hopefully shows through in terms of making sure that they know that they have the runway to do what is needed for our clients, but also for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that answer was so good. You should store it and use it on every single thing that you do. Or when they're like in like 10 years when there's the Cara Lewis robot coming out, you could just you could let the technology learn from that answer because you can't script that, but it was perfect. So
It's pretty funny because my uncles, I have two uncles that are my dad's brothers who are closer in age to my sister and I, because my dad and his youngest brother were 22 years apart. And so we used to like play, we lived next door to them. So we used to play baseball in our backyard or like, wiffle ball or whatever. And they were like, they used to call me Mickey Mechanical because they always thought I was very robotic. That's why I never went to school to be a softball player. But talking about Cara Lewis robot, my uncles talked about that many moons ago.
that's hilarious. I mean, listen, it's definitely listen, I think about all the time like this like human versus all of that. So what's one hobby or interest that people would be most surprised about that you have?
I saw this question and I was like, I don't really know. I mean, I love I haven't done it because you asked me about my time. But I do love to sew. And I think if some of my friends in the business heard this, they would say she does because I used to make skirts back in the day, and sell them in the business. And so I think if I had time, I would go back to sewing, but I also love fashion. And I probably, my secret passion is basically like buying things and helping people buy things that like fit their body and fit their aura.
Got
Um,
it. So you know how
love
to
it.
like personalize a look is
Yeah.
the way to think about
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
what
Like I should have started Stitch Fix or one of those companies, but I'm not that smart, so I didn't do it. but I should have.
But you're doing that right now with your personalization for each brand. So
Yeah.
ultimately, I think that's the easy way to weave in your sewing thought process.
Yeah. I love that.
I'll kind of close with this. We happened to see you at karaoke, crushing it a couple weeks ago. If you were able to just pick your typical go to karaoke song that wasn't that night, because only one person, one of my buddies, rapped, so I was impressed with him, but no one else seemed to go outside of the box. Like, what would be your random song that people wouldn't think about?
That night, it was definitely the first time singing that song, and I will tell you that I practiced it with my kids, and they told me not to do it. So, but I still did it because I was like, I need a new song, and I can't sing the same song. But if I had a go-to song, which I do, and I needed to crush it, it would be "Push It" by Salt and Pepper.
Wow. Okay.
And so when I did see the rapper, I was like, "Ah, I'm impressed." And he's also a really quiet dude. So I was like, wow.
That's so funny that you said that. He's a friend of mine, so I'm laughing at that. Well, is there anything else you wanna share with our audience? Otherwise, listen, we're honored to have you today.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love participating in this, so thanks for having me. And yeah, always here for some fun questions if you ever need any answers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cara. Thank you for having us.
Hi, I'm Hannah, one of the producers for Sightly's Breaking Through the Mayhem podcast. We want to thank you so much for listening to the show. If you want to learn more about the guests we had on today, we included additional information about them in the show notes. Finally, if you'd like to be on the podcast, or if you know someone that would make a great fit, you could fill out the form at sightly.com/podcast. We hope you have a great day.